Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about reflections day 1. We're going to recognize that the letters FL and the word reflection are going to identify that this is a flip. Okay? The other words and what this translates to is mirror image. Okay? We're going to create a mirror image either over the y-axis or over the x-axis like this. I want you to box the words that tell you what's happening. Reflection across the y-axis. Okay? Or reflection across the x-axis. If it's a reflection across the y-axis, once you box the words, you're going to bold the y-axis to indicate that you know which axis is going to act as your mirror. Okay, put a Y at the top and bottom. If it's reflecting across the x-axis, you're going to bold the x-axis to indicate you know which axis is going to act as your mirror. Now, so for this one I want you to write from your notes on page 109, we have reflect. These are your options. Reflect over the x-axis or reflect over the y-axis. Okay, these are your two options here. You're going to write it every single time. If it's reflecting over the x-axis or if it's reflecting over the y-axis, the beginning of your rule looks exactly the same. Okay? XY with the arrow that means transform. If it's reflecting across the x-axis, your x value is going to stay in the exact same position and it's going to be exactly the same sign. Okay? So put a circle around the x here and the x here to indicate you know that this is exactly the same. However, your y value will go from whatever it is to the opposite sign, and we indicate that with a negative y. If it's reflecting over the x-axis, your x's stay exactly the same. If it's reflecting over the y-axis, okay, now your y is going to stay exactly the same. It comes second, it's going to stay exactly the same number, while your x value will change signs. Okay, so on the y, we're going to circle the y to indicate those stay the same position, same sign. X-axis, same position, same sign. So these are your two options. It's either reflection over the x-axis or it's a reflection over the y-axis. You're going to write these rules for each one. Okay. So if it reflects across the y-axis, here's your y-axis. All you're going to do is you're going to count from that point to the y-axis and then count away from the y-axis the same number. C is 1 and 1. I make that C prime. E is going to stay in the same position. W is going to be 1 away, 1, 2, 1 away. That's W prime. And M is 1, 2, 3 to the y-axis, 1, 2, 3 away from the y-axis, and that's M prime. Okay. So when I connect these dots, there's my mirror image. It's like a butterfly over the y-axis. And then I want you to write which rule applies here. It's over the y-axis. It's going to be x comma y transform to negative x comma y. Okay? Circle the y's to indicate you know that it's a reflection over the y-axis. The y's stayed exactly the same. If it's a reflection over the x-axis, it's going to be x comma y. The x stays exactly the same. The y gets the negative. Circle the x. Okay. Over the x-axis, nothing happens to the x-axis. It stays exactly the same. So let's count. From I to the x-axis, remember we're reflecting over the x-axis this time, so bold it. Count to it, count away from it, and there's your I prime. W is going to stay in the same position. X is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away again and make that X prime. When I connect these dots, you can see again it's a mirror image. Notice, did it get bigger or smaller? No, it's identical. It's still identical. Okay? It's just it flipped over the x-axis. So you're going to go along. Here's reflection over the y-axis. Choose this rule, reflect over the y-axis, and write it here. xy becomes negative x comma y. Nothing happens to the y value. It stays exactly the same. Bold the y-axis. Bold it. Okay? And you're going to count across. S becomes 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. S prime. Z is the other way. You're still going to count 1 and away 1, and it becomes Z prime. To the y-axis and away from the y-axis. B is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. B prime. And when I connect the dots, there's your mirror image over the y-axis. Number 4, we're going to reflect across the x-axis. Okay? So I'm going to bold the x-axis. And you're going to write the rule for reflecting over the x-axis. X comma y. Nothing happens to the x value. It stays exactly the same. The y gets the negative. The r, we're going to count to the x and away. 1 and 1. R prime. T is 2 to the x-axis, 2 away, is T prime. I is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4 away. I prime. Number 4. All right, if I turn the page, again, you're going to box the words to tell you what's happening. Not just a reflection across which axis. And for each one, I want you to bold. This is across the x-axis. Bold the x-axis. This is x plus, this is x minus. Okay? This is across the y-axis. We're going to bold the y-axis. Number 8, across the x-axis. X-axis, let's bold the x-axis. Number 9, across the y-axis. Number 10, across the x-axis. X plus is right, xy is minus. You're going to write the rule for each. Number 6, if I reflect across the x-axis, I'm going to say xy transforms. X is going to stay exactly the same, y gets the negative. If I reflect across the y-axis, I'm going to say xy. Now y is going to stay exactly the same, the x is going to get the negative. Reflect across the x-axis. xy. If I'm reflecting across the x-axis, x is going to stay exactly the same, y is going to get the negative. If I reflect across the y-axis, y is going to stay exactly the same, okay? X is going to get the negative. And 10, reflecting across the x-axis, x is going to stay exactly the same, y gets the negative. Okay? Those are all your rules. Reflect these images by counting to the axis and across the axis to create the new image. Okay? And let me just show you on number 5 what I'm expecting as well. Across the y-axis, bold the y-axis. Y plus is up, y minus is down. Okay, so you're going to flip this triangle, flip it over the y-axis. And remember, if I'm flipping over the y-axis, I'm going to use this rule, x comma y. Y is going to stay exactly the same. The x will change to negative x. Okay? Flip this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 and 5. And 4 and 4. P prime sits here. M prime sits here. And Z prime sits here. My new triangle, it will be identical. It just flips over. Okay? It is identical. Alright, so keep working on this throughout the period, and raise your hand if you have any questions. We'll come around and help you individually. Great job.